So we're going to get started, and today's class is regarding advocacy, and I wanted to give two voices to advocacy. One is my voice that has been working in advocacy for a very long time, and then I wanted to invite a recent graduate to come back and to talk to you a little bit about living into advocacy. And so I have invited Valencia to come and talk to you just for a very few minutes. She was in this class with Lee, and I felt like that you needed to hear both voices, that you needed to hear a student who had graduated and is now moving into other work in her graduate studies. And then I would like to share some words with you too on advocacy. So, Valencia.
Thank you, Cheryl. Good afternoon, everyone. I'm Valencia. Today I want to talk to you a little bit about advocacy. So when Dean Shields asked me to speak with you guys, I went and I looked up what advocacy was. And advocacy is defined as the public support for or recommendation for a particular cause or policy. The main point that I want to get with you guys when I have this short time with you is to let you know that we all want to be advocates. That's why we take classes like this. And we've been empowered by formalized knowledge, like this class, that teaches us best practices to help people. However, the most important lesson to learn as an advocate is that your role is to help others in the group that you're trying to represent feel empowered to help themselves. So I want to start off and talk about who I am, my background. Like I said, I'm Valencia. I'm from New York City. I know you guys all think of like Times Square when you hear New York City, but I'm from Southside Jamaica, Queens. The neighborhood that I lived in and the schools that I went to were failing schools. One of my friends who I went to school with was murdered. There were no tolerance policy, a lot of punitive justice over suspension, drugs, and things of that sort. Coming from that community, when you come to a place like this, people often think students like me are unprepared and don't necessarily view us as credible sources. But the Posse Foundation, the organization which allowed me to have my scholarship to come to Vanderbilt University, saw something different. Posse was a program that was started 28 years ago. Well, next year will be 28 years. When a student dropped out of school and said, I would have never dropped out if I had my Posse. 28 years later, Posse sends over 1,000 students in cohorts of 10 to top-tier universities like Vanderbilt, Babson, UC Davis, Berkeley, Babson, etc. When I came to Vanderbilt, I started to learn a lot about the communities that I came from in the classroom. What was really interesting was hearing my classmates talk about what these communities should do and how these communities should improve themselves. I spent a lot of time listening to my peers about what they felt. And it was very interesting to see that they didn't even realize that I was in the room. But I was. It taught me a really important lesson about advocacy and privilege. So oftentimes people don't realize that the ability to advocate for yourself is a privilege. Having the power to use your own words and relay a message in a way that people believe is credible and that your claims are legitimate is a privilege. We all have privilege. We've been blessed to attend a university that arms us every day with theory after theory on how we can substantiate the claims we learn and how we can spread the beliefs that we have learned. So it's important to recognize when you need to step back and allow a community to advocate for themselves. It's important for you to step back so that they can step forward. If this is a problem for you, you need to think about why. Why are you doing this advocacy work? Are you advocating for this community because you want to feel good? Or are you advocating for this community so they can ultimately sustain themselves and be better? What does this mean now? Well, advocacy isn't always organizing an entire community. It can be very much so behind the scenes. A lot of the work that we do, we don't even realize it's advocacy work. However, this kind of work should empower people to be the change they want to see in the world. You don't have to be that change. They can be the change for themselves. I found an important quote by Bill Drayton. He's an author of Leading Social Entrepreneurs Changing the World. And his quote says, social entrepreneurs are not just content to give a fish or to teach how to fish. They will not rest until they have revolutionized the fishing industry. And I really want you guys to think about what that means. It's not just you doing the work, it's you allowing someone to feel empowered, that they have a revolution inside themselves that can change their community and change their world. So to close, I really want to tell you guys, in your work as advocates, put your communities first. They are the people that you want to represent. They are the people that want to better themselves. You do not have to make them better. You just have to give them a platform so that they can express themselves. For me, it's going to look like going back to my old middle school and showing the kids there that they can be as successful as I have been able to be so far, thanks to all the people that have believed in me. In the future, I really want to formalize these structures and become a professor so I can be a representation for these people and teach them that they can be in the same place that I am, in the same way that professors did for myself. I also want to start a nonprofit where I can work with like first-generation women of color in these communities to let them know that they can enter these spaces. They can enter spaces like Vanderbilt, they can enter spaces like Harvard, and their claims and their knowledge is not only important, it's legitimate and it's necessary. I really want these students that I work with on the day-to-day now and in the future to unlearn the learned helplessness that they've learned in their churches, in their schools, by their communities, and by their families, and realize that they have the power within themselves to speak and make a difference. Thank you.
Thank you. That's wonderful.
Thank you.
Pretty powerful, right? And I hope that you realize that Valencia was in our class. She's at the beginning of her career and her choices and decisions. And that's kind of what I want to talk with you about today. And so I ask you to fill out some questions. I hope that many of you did that. And many years ago, I was asked in a class to write about what I wanted to be known for. And I ask you to do that before attending class today. So I would like for you just to share with a neighbor what you wrote. What do you want to be known for? Everybody have a chance to share? As I pondered that question in college, I thought about the following. I wanted to be known as a good teacher, a good coach, a good professional. Now remember, I'm thinking these things when I'm sitting where you're sitting today in college. I wanted to be known as a kind person. I wanted to be known as a person who made a difference. But I could choose only one thing. And so here's what I landed on. I wanted to be known as a person with a good heart. I decided on that as a defining promise for my life. I knew if I could be known as a person with a good heart, then the rest would follow. So to me, that is central to understanding advocacy. And I think you could hear that in her voice too, that it was having a good heart, thinking about serving others, thinking about advocating. Our class has explored 4 pillars that underlie our course. For me, it is 3 of those pillars, diversity, compassion, and social justice, that moves us to becoming an advocate, an agent of change. Now, I ask you to write down on your paper some quotes that have meant something to you. And so as you listen to this, I want you to realize that I'm sharing with you some of the quotes over the years that have meant a lot to me, because I think we get informed by that. Maya Angelou wrote, "I learned a long time ago the wisest thing I can do is to be on my own side, be an advocate for myself and others like me." I look back on my life to the 4th grade, when I became an advocate for myself. So I want you now to look at question number 3, and I want you to reflect on it silently. When did you become an advocate for yourself? And then I want to tell you a little story. So I call this my advocacy jacket. I didn't always call it that, but I got this as a gift. Dr. Dobson's cousin is a fashion designer, and he made this jacket for me. Okay? Y'all like that? And so this kind of shows places where I have had the opportunity to do advocacy. And so I'm going to tell you about that. And the first one, I'm going to go a little more in depth in. This is 1957. And I was in the 4th grade. And it was the first time that I realized that I advocated for myself. And so I wanted to play softball in the 4th grade. I loved softball. My dad would be out in the backyard with me and throw a softball. And so I went to school and told the teacher that I wanted to play. And she said, girls don't play softball. And in 1957, most girls did not play softball. And I went home and told my grandmother, I was told girls don't play softball. She said, well, what have you been doing out in the backyard? I said, pitching and catching and batting and hitting and all of that. She said, well, girls can play softball, so what are you going to do about it? I said, well, the teacher's already told me I can't do it. So the next day I went and talked to the principal. So see, I was already learning structure, okay? And I was learning agency, okay? So I went and talked to the principal, and guess what? My principal was also a female, and she told me, Sharon, you have hopscotch, you can be on the swings, you can sit under the tree, you can talk to the girls, you can do all those things. You can play kickball, but girls do not play softball. So I went back home and told my grandmother, girls don't play softball. The principal said it. And again, she said, what are you going to do about it? She said, what does it take to play softball? I said, well, ball and a glove and a bat, 4 bases and a field. She said, what have you got? I said, well, I have my glove, I have my softball, I have a bat, I don't have any bases, and the school has a field. And she says, well, you've just about got everything you need, so now what are you going to do? So to make a long story short, I went back to school, and I decided to do grassroots organizing. And I got all the girls in the 4th grade to agree that for their birthday or for some other special occasion over the holidays, whatever holiday they celebrated, ask for a glove, a ball, or a bat. And they said, okay. And I said, March 1st, we're going to play softball in the 4th grade. So over that next few months, everybody started getting equipment. I still had that problem with bases, and so my grandmother helped me make bases. We took pillowcases and we put sand in them, and on March 1st, I drug in a laundry bag the bases, my ball, my bat, my glove, and took it and hid it under a tree out in the schoolyard. All the other girls came and piled their stuff under the tree. It was all hidden. And when recess came, we went out, we had 4 teams, and we started a tournament out on that field. My teacher was standing there watching all of that. And I went up to her and I said, I hope you're not upset, but we really wanted to play. And she said, well, I guess girls can play softball. And so that was the first time that I have a recollection of really thinking about advocating for myself and others and making something happen, having action with the things that I wanted to advocate for. I think it is really important to remember these moments. That's why I had you try to think about your first experience and the stepping stones that get us where we are today. So think about what Valencia told you about her stepping stones to get to where she is today. I had a great mentor guiding me through the process. It was my grandmother. But I've had a lot of other mentors over the years that have guided me through the process of advocacy. This was the beginning. It gave me a confidence that has carried me throughout my life. And if you look at this jacket, you're going to see a theme here about health and fitness. It led me to advocate for girls to have sport opportunities in high school. It led me to conduct a sit-in at my high school to advocate for equal recognition of girls for their sport contributions. It led me to march for civil rights in college, to demonstrate against the Vietnam War, to give voice to the women's movement, and to fight for Title IX. Part of that fight was by doing sport workshops across my state and traveling to professional meetings to advocate for the passage of Title IX. It led me to become the only member of the men's track team at the University of Louisville, because there was not that opportunity for women at the university in 1968, and I had a goal to run in a certain meet. It caused me to meet with the U of L college president to advocate for equal funding for women's basketball in 1971. I started seeing the disparity and the gap between my opportunities as a collegiate woman and the men's opportunity. It led me to celebrate the passage of Title IX by walking into my principal's office as a teacher and a coach and advocating for equal opportunities for the girls' basketball team, equal utilization of the gym, opportunity for primetime scheduling of games, uniforms, equipment, travel reimbursement, and guess what? Equal pay for me. The boys' coach was getting paid, I was not. I remember Mr. Crafton saying to me, "You're going to sue me if I don't do this." I said, "Yes, sir, I am." It is now the law, and the law is on my side, and we can make this really easy. And sure enough, he made it easy. An interesting side note is that in all of those sport experiences, either my performance or the team's performance was equal to what the boys or men's teams were doing. And in some cases, the girls were excelling past what the boys' performance and record was. And I learned that sometimes, as it has been said, we may have to do more. Those of us who are oppressed in certain situations may have to prove ourselves beyond those who are not. That experience on that softball field led me to advocate for women to take the science track in my master's degree program that set me on a course of research and scholarship in the area of health and exercise science and exercise physiology, because that track was only open to men for a long time, and all the research was being done on men, and all the researchers were men. I realized that all of these were very formative moments in my evolving as an advocate. In all of this, I realized that passion plays such an important role in becoming who we are meant to be. Passion drives our service, our vocation, our advocacy. Eleanor Roosevelt stated that in the long run, we shape ourselves. The process never ends until we die, and the choices we make are ultimately our own responsibility. I realized that I was living into my life's work because I was advocating for the things that I was passionate about. I started loving health and physical fitness at a very young age. I think that is why I advocated so hard for that first softball team. I really wanted to play. Throughout my elementary school years, I was driven by my participation in the President's Council fitness test in the 1950s. I wanted to excel on those tests. I practiced and practiced. But I also realized that my opportunities as a girl to play sports was limited by societal influences and biases and research biases. You may not know this, but up until the early 1970s, the longest distance that a girl could run competitively in any race was a half mile. That was the longest. But I actually learned I could do more because I was out running miles to improve my half-mile time. I had to do more to improve that time, and I was capable. I became the fastest girl in my school in the 600-yard run. And then the year that I turned 40, which was in 1989, I defied that half-mile limit by running the Twin Cities Marathon. That was a goal. I wanted to prove that girls could run long distance. In the 1960s, I wrote a paper on Wilma Rudolph, who was at Tennessee State University and who won gold medals in track and field at the Rome Olympics. She was my heroine. She was a role model to me. It was for that essay I ran across a statement by John F. Kennedy that read, "Physical fitness is not only one of the most important keys to a healthy body, but it is the basis of dynamic and creative intellectual ability." That had an impact on my view of the importance of exercise and health on academic achievement and creativity. A few years later, in 1969, I actually conducted track and field workshops in Tennessee and Kentucky with Wilma, and then served with her on the Tennessee Governor's Council on Fitness in the 80s. So in 1969, I was a sophomore in college doing this. It was that quote from John F. Kennedy and having Wilma Rudolph as a role model and eventual mentor that helped form a foundation for my vocation. I set my goals as a high schooler to become a health and physical education teacher. That was my life dream at the age of 14. That dream came true when I entered my teaching profession as a middle school health and physical education teacher in 1971. Those students and teachers were my village in that school, and I had found a place to live out my passion. I was in an underserved neighborhood and an underserved school, and we found lots to advocate for those children in that school. What I learned from my public school teaching was another foundation builder for my future work. My dreams did not end there. A professor at Peabody saw in me a potential I had never seen in myself, and after completing my master's degree in 1974, I came to Peabody College upon his recommendation and urging to engage in doctoral studies. In 1979, the Surgeon General of the United States linked for the first time that the diseases that most contributed to morbidity and mortality in our country were lifestyle related and not infectious diseases. At the same time, Peabody College was merging with Vanderbilt University. It was a time when departments and faculty were being dismantled in this college. My colleagues and I, who were in the Department of Health and Physical Education, and yes, we had that department, and yes, we don't have it anymore, were told that we no longer would have jobs within 2 years because our department was not going to be continued. For me, this was a personal and professional crisis. I loved this college and my work in it, and I just could not imagine leaving. In HOD, there is a symbol that our students are given, and I have one for you today that I'll give you at the end. It is the symbol for crisis and opportunity. The symbols, well, it's the symbol for crisis, and one of them is the symbol for danger, and the other is for opportunity. And many times we are faced with dangerous opportunities. The possibility of losing my job was a crisis and a danger to me. And in that moment for me, a person who had first dreamed of being a physical education teacher and who took advantage of an opportunity to further their education and become a college professor, I was now faced with having to leave. So what now? As my grandmother taught me, ask that question, what am I going to do about it? I realized that I never dreamt large enough as a 14-year-old, or at the age of 30 in 1979, understood fully where life could and would take me. In that crisis of the merger, I walked across the street to the medical center, and an opportunity emerged. A physician and I created a position that allowed me to remain on the faculty at Peabody, but also begin the development and founding of the Kim Diani Center, a health promotion and cardiac rehab center that is right up behind MAPCO now. With that trip across the street, a new path emerged. It not only led to the serving of thousands of people, but also to a new master's degree at Peabody, health promotion and education. And 12 years after walking across 21st Avenue, this undergraduate class was developed 25 years ago. You see, I could not have dreamed of becoming a founder of a health promotion center in 1960 because there was no such thing. The need had not become apparent, and we were not focusing upon a solution for the need of combating lifestyle-related diseases. So I'm going to say to you, you are not dreaming big enough yet because you don't know everything that's going to be needed and the solutions that you're going to have to be a part of. All the emblems that you saw on that jacket are the result of evolving study, service, and advocacy. Over the years, it has led me to advocate for better school lunches, daily physical education in schools, infusing of health education into school programs and after-school programs. It has led me to advocate for better opportunities for children in rural Tennessee or in urban schools right here in Nashville. To work in New Mexico to bring about health and fitness improvement for frontier communities, and to work for passage of legislation for health and seniors and for persons with special needs both locally and in South Africa. Passions and life work is ever-changing as change happens and opportunities emerge. Professionally, over the years, more opportunities emerged. I could not have ever dreamed of being president of the National Association of Girls and Women in Sport and needing to advocate and educate for Title IX when it was once again threatened under the Bush administration. Once again, a threat or a crisis created a new opportunity to educate. As president of that organization, we began a national grassroots advocacy and education program called Backyards and Beyond. It was to educate girls and women about Title IX and their rights to equal opportunity under the law through neighborhood cottage meetings. This experience, like so many, has taught me to be vigilant about the progress we make and to ensure their continuance. As our obesity crisis expands in this country, we have to find new solutions. When, as a fifth grader participating in the President's Council fitness test, I could have never imagined serving on the President's Council on Fitness, Sport, and Nutrition Science Board and advocating for research-based intervention programs in schools. As I work with various community partners on after-school nutrition and fitness programs, I am able to build capacity for those programs through our class partnership with them by having you engage at the ground level to provide a health fair to children and adolescents in our community. You were a role model, an advocate at the grassroots level in this project. You were making a difference by being present, by educating, and by being an advocate that promoted healthy nutritional practices to young people. There are so many opportunities that I could have never imagined when I was in college. I had dreams, but I really could not dream big enough. I could not foresee all of the opportunities. And guess what? I'm still dreaming, still thinking of all there is to do, finding new ways of being and doing. So here's some lessons learned. Lesson 1, advocacy starts with dreaming, and advocacy means action. We have to listen. We have to find purpose. We have to discern and discover, create, and impact and transform. Passion defines our direction, and that passion can have changes it can deepen, it can regenerate, and follow new ways of knowing and being. But persistence keeps us on the path, and we need mentoring that guides the journey. Lesson number 2. Let people see in you the things you cannot see in yourself, and listen to them. Sometimes we just cannot see it in ourselves. When I came to Peabody College, I wasn't planning on getting a doctorate. I just came over here to visit this college. I was here on vacation. And there was a professor who saw something in me that I had never seen in myself. And they have mentored and guided me along the path. Now, I want you to reflect for a second on the answer you gave in question number 2. Who have been the 3 most influential people in your life? I just want you to look at who you listed. And I hope that you will continue to add more names, because I can add a whole list of names over the years that have been influential people in my life. And so let people influence you. I've reflected over my own lifetime, and I realized the following as the influencers in my life. For me, it was my birth family and my extended family that I have created over the years. They grounded me. They challenged me. They encouraged me. They inspired my faith. A grandmother who asked, "What are you going to do about it?" A dad and mom who made me think of the deep questions and encouraged me to live into the answers. There were leaders, authors, advocates, role models, who I may never have met, but whose words inspire me. As you have seen, quotes have inspired me, and I hope the quotes you have listed continue to inspire you and that you add to that list. So I'm going to take a moment and let you share one of your quotes that has meant a lot with someone else in the class. So would you just take a moment and share a quote with somebody in the class? So, another influencer was a teacher who nurtured who I wanted to become and mentored me along the way. Actually, I'm still in touch with that teacher. She was my 9th grade health and physical education teacher. I had her class when it was her first year of teaching, and we're still Facebook friends. I do Facebook, and we stay in touch with one another. A professor who opened doors when I could not understand why or what they saw in me. So Dr. Garrett, the one who met me here on campus and offered me an assistantship when I just didn't even have that in my frame of mind at all. I had just finished my master's degree. I'd been in school forever, and I thought, I am not going back to school yet. But the opportunity came, And I said, you know, I'd really like to get my doctorate someday, but not right now. And he said, what if I paid for all of it? And what if I gave you a stipend? And I said, well, I'll think about it. It took me a month because you know what I had to do? I had to leave those kids in that middle school. And that had been my dream, okay? I just had to dream bigger. I had to think about what this meant and what I could do beyond what I thought I was going to be doing to affect those children. I've been blessed with colleagues who supported and challenged, encouraged and focused me and included me and gave me opportunity. I've been blessed with students like you over the years who always ask the question, why? Or how come? Or what is this? Asking deep questions that take us into better conversations and really wanting to explore theories and information and possibilities and lending your voice of experience and the experience of others and sharing that so we come to deeper understandings. And then all of us asking, what will we do about it? Grad assistants who opened my world to new ways of thinking. And I look in the back of the room and there's 3 of them sitting back there now. And 2 of them are current grad assistants in the class, and Megan was a grad assistant with me a while back. Grad assistants opened that new world of thinking to me, who led me in new ways of serving and teaching and caring, bringing really great new ideas to this class. If you had seen this class 25 years ago, it wouldn't look anything like this class does today, and the things that you're doing and what you're exploring, because it has been an evolved experience. Our community partners, you know we have wonderful community partners that come and speak in this class, and how much have we learned from them, how they have influenced me in my own teaching, in my own scholarship, in my own avenues of serving and advocacy over the years, listening to their stories, listening to what's being needed to be done in our community. And Lee, a person I have team taught with for years. She was a grad assistant, and then we became team teachers. She challenged me, she supported me, she helped us to become reflective, generative thinkers. And evolve our work into ways that never would have happened if we had not put our hearts, our minds, and our spirits together into our work and our lives. And so she was part of my village. She was my everyday village, the sustainer, the person who stayed in this hard place of meeting the world's needs and serving. And so, as Valencia said, find your posse, find your village, find the people who are going to be supportive with you and connect with you and have similar values and goals and ideals and dreams. That's how advocacy is done. I do want you to find your collaborators. I do want you to find your mentors, your encouragers, your role models, your friends. Listen to them and let them inspire your work. Build that posse, build that village. Lesson 3. Marian Wright Edelman states that service is the rent we pay for being. It is the very purpose of life and not something you do in your spare time. It is something that you strive to do all the time. We must not, in trying to think about how we can make a big difference, ignore the small daily differences that we can make, which over time add up to the big differences we often cannot foresee. So last week, I took Megan's daughter to see the Suffragette Memorial at Centennial Park and to a Vandy women's ball game. That is a small act of promoting advocacy. We must know and understand the history of movements to contextualize where we have been, where we are, and what the journey is that lies ahead. We must educate and nurture others. One person at a time builds us to a tipping point where the bigger acts of advocacy happen. Passing along knowledge, understandings, passions to the next generation is essential to the continuance of justice. Lesson 4. There are all different kinds of voices calling you to all different kinds of work. Even in this class, we can be overwhelmed by all of the various pathways that could be taken to make a difference in this world. How do we know what we are supposed to do? Friedrich Buechner, a German theologian, gives us some insight, and I think I may have quoted this to you a while back when I was talking to you about a Facebook entry that I made. Gives us some insight into discerning our life's work. We are usually called to the kind of work that you need most to do and that the world most needs to have done. It is the place where your deep gladness and the world's deep hunger meet. You have to look inward, but you also have to look outward. Listen to your life. When you wake up in the morning, if you want to know who you are, watch your feet. Watch your feet. Where your feet take you is in essence who you are. Your feet brought you to this class today. Your feet takes you on ASB. Your feet takes you on study abroad, or to your service placement, or to your practicum, or to your family, or to your community. Watch where your feet go. Where your feet take you is in essence your place and your meaning for being in this world. Live in the needs of the day and live in your gladness. Watch your feet. Lesson 5. A person cannot do all the good the world needs. I want you to hear that. A person cannot do all the good the world needs. And I watch all of you wanting to do so much. But the world needs all the good each one of us can do. There's a limit to how much each individual can do. So don't try to do all the good the world needs. Dig deep and do all the good that you can do. You don't need to know all the answers just yet. As you can see from my story, I didn't know all of the answers when I was your age. I had to live into them, and I'm still living into them. Martin Luther King, in his Nobel Prize acceptance speech, said, "Faith is taking the first step, even when you don't see the whole staircase. You just need to take the first step." After that first step, at each point in my life, I just had to take the next step. Sometimes that next step, I couldn't even see the next step on the staircase. Just like when I didn't think I was going to have a job at Peabody College. I wasn't sure what was going to happen, but I knew I had to keep my feet moving, and I had to find what the next step was, where it was, what I was to do. I still don't know all the answers. I can tell you, I've lived a long time past what you've lived, and I do not know all the answers. But I still dream, I still hope, I still listen, and I haven't finished the staircase. I'm just a bit farther along on the staircase than you are. Lesson 6. So look at this world. Find a place where your deep gladness and the world's deep hunger meet. Now, at this time, I want you to look at question 6 that I gave you. And I'm going to ask Madeline to come up, and we're going to give you a little bit of instruction. And I want you to look. I ask you in question 6, I said, at this point in time, what are you most passionate about? At this point in time, what are you most passionate about? I want you to look at your statement, and I want you to pick one word that defines it. One word. And in a minute, we're going to make a word cloud out of your passions. Now, I have to confess, I did not set all this up. I am not quite that technologically with it, but boy, I surround myself with a great village. So it tells you how to do this, and we'll start seeing words appear, but one word that describes what you're passionate about, that you. So when you come for your final on Tuesday or Thursday, we're going to have this copied for you to give to you, because it is a way for you to remember that you're not alone, that you're not siloed, that you're not the only one that has passion and really working toward advocacy, and that you already have a village right here. People who have chosen to take this class, to have a common cause, to really listen to others, and to find those needs in the world, and then help you to pinpoint your deep gladness in that. So, in closing, I want to encourage you to stand for justice, advocate for yourself and others, have compassion, and as Desmond Tutu said, do your little bit of good where you are. It's those little bits of good put together that overwhelm the world. I know you're going to overwhelm the world. I have great faith in you, in all the students that have come before you, and Valencia was a great example of students who have come before you that are thinking in the same ways, that we're building that tipping point, we're building that critical mass of individuals who have at their heart advocacy. And I know that all of the students that will come after you are going to have that sense of advocacy and mission and justice. So I do have great faith in you. You're really the future. I know a lot of people tell you that, but don't take that lightly. I had faculty that told me that, and that inspired me to make meaning of life and meaning in life. So, have a good heart, trust the path, live the journey. Thank you. If you'll pass those around. Oh. Oh.
Can you keep it together anymore?
Thank you.
I'll say more on Tuesday once I get my act together, but the lessons learned, she does live them. She's been an advocate for me. It's why I'm here. It's why others are here. And you have made it family. So thank you for all you've done.